Ariel Helwani in Las Vegas alongside top UFC heavyweight contender Frank Mir, who faces Todd Duffee on July 15th in San Diego, live on Fox Sports 1. And Frank, that fight just days away now.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Well, they asked me to help promote the fight a little bit. Obviously, Todd Duffee's name is not drawing a lot of attention to sell tickets, so I'm doing my part to make sure that we fill up the stadium as well as possible. Also, with our co-main event falling off, we got to make sure we do as well as we can.
And of course, you're a local guy, but you kind of wish they made Todd come here as well to sell the fight.
I think he has that little sidekick they could have brought. Maybe they'll send him there so he can do the talking. Duffee, I don't think is the best marketer. The guy's just not the quickest witted individual in the world.
I like the shots. I appreciate them. Is this fight kind of a bummer? Like, do you feel like you're kind of taking a step back here?
No, I think Todd, as far as too physically, people look at him and he looks like a physical dynamo. So I think that the average fan of the UFC just looks at him on the scale when we weigh in, it's gonna be like, oh my. When he takes his shirt off, he's quite impressive. And I think for 2 or 3 minutes he is a very impressive fighter. I just think that his style is very athletically orientated. He fights and uses his advantages that he has as an athlete, but he hasn't really grown and learned technique to be efficient, to have his hips under him in the proper way, to move the right way so where he can actually really push that athletic ability to the next level. And so that being said, I think a lot of times they have to spend some of his training towards just, I've been with him in camps. I know that they got to spend so much time on his head that, developing other aspects of his game could cause maybe a lack of confidence, cause him to doubt himself. And those are things he's already doing. So, he's very much of an extremist. I'm sure there's a 5-minute span today that he just thought he could beat the world. He's King Kong. And there's a 5-minute span where basically they got to make sure they hide all the razor blades in the bathroom.
Wow. So you're coming off one of the best wins of your career. It was a great, important win for you against Bigfoot Silva. And, afterwards, for a moment, we were thinking maybe Brock. There were some big fights being, and now you're fighting Todd. Does that feel a bit like, you went from potentially the trilogy against Brock to Todd Duffee?
It definitely wasn't what I wanted. Even when Todd, at first, when I found out that he was calling me out and stuff, there was the talk. The UFC powers that be, I was under the impression that Brock was getting ready to sign, and that if that happens, that it was I'd be the guy as long as I got through, did what I had to do with Bigfoot. That could be a great fight to build up. He's had a layoff. You're now coming off the win. Let's make this trilogy. I was hearing rumors of Madison Square Garden, and so it caught me by surprise when they told me that he's announcing his retirement. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy, because there was some pretty high-level people that I was speaking to that told me that it was all but a done deal, that was a signed contract.
Did you feel like he just wanted no part of you, none of you?
No, I don't know. I think that maybe financially he just kind of the guy goes to 2 different car dealerships. I think maybe he just took advantage of the instant attention that he got by bringing up the UFC's name, and so probably got a bigger contract with the professional wrestling organization. And that being said, maybe watching the Bigfoot fight, he decided maybe that wasn't the best fight for him to come up off of a layoff.
Were you amused at all in some of the tactics that Duffee did to try to get the fight with you? He really went to great lengths to get this fight.
I know he did, and I'm kind of glad he did, because at first, just because of our dealings in the gym and because of how I've been with him, I think I wouldn't have taken the fight as seriously as I did. Not that you ever want to fall asleep on somebody, but let's face it, out of the last 10 guys I fought, Duffee's at the bottom as far as who's dangerous and what they can do. And so at first glance, you could almost get relaxed and fall into a comfort zone and maybe take on the mental approach like, okay, well, let me work on what I want to work on, and I'm just going to improve myself and work on this and not think about who I'm fighting. And then, his comments and some of the things that he went about, it kind of insulted me. It woke me up.
Pissed you off?
Oh, absolutely.
Which one in particular?
Just kind of the cockiness of just I'll lay down to give you a chance. I'm like, wait a minute, man. I fought a who's who of the MMA world. You fought one guy maybe than anybody, Alistair Overeem and Mike Russo's another guy, and both those guys beat you. One guy knocked you out with a broken arm, and it's Russo. I don't think he's knocked anybody else out. He knocked you out cold, and you went to sleep, and then you fought Alistair, and I fought Alistair, and Alistair's a tough guy, and he hits hard, and he lasted all of 19 seconds with him. I'm like, I mean, there's a way to call somebody out, and there's a way to call somebody out. Sean Jordan basically he didn't call me out, but he, after his fight, my name was brought up. I heard him in an interview. Someone said, "Oh yeah, Mir, be a potential, great fighter, been with the organization, honored to fight him," type thing. And those words, that sounds good to me. It doesn't bug me at all. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how you talk about somebody, and then you can sit there and you build a fight up once it's made and whatnot. But I think some of the smirky remarks he made, I'm just like, I know you, buddy. We're going to be locked in the cage together. Like, I know you might think you talk yourself in, but I know who you are. And after 2 or 3 minutes, I don't care what improvements you think you've made, the real you's going to come back out.
When's the last time you trained with him?
Oh, I think before the Mike Russo fight.
Okay. So he brought you in to help him.
Well, no, we trained with Jimmy Gifford,
Right.
and then also too Mike Whitehead was somebody that he worked with, that I worked with, so mutual training partners and stuff. So then we worked together, and then even when I did work with Duffee, then I would grapple with him, move around with him. I seen kind of how some of the other guys would go after him, and Whitehead one time I remember just completely just mopped the floor with him, but. That's Whitehead. In the gym, he mops the floor with most people. And then I remember sitting there going, man, the guy's fighting pretty soon. Maybe we shouldn't just kill the guy's ego. And then one day I was like, let me work with you, and rolled with him and kind of just let him move around and escape and get up and move. But I kind of had that okay, let me help you out. You're the young guy that needs to have some confidence right here, and Whitehead's probably not giving you much confidence. And so I think that if he hadn't made some of the comments he made before the fight, I might have almost kept that kind of mentality of, well, I'm the senior guy here, you're the young kid, and that might have been unhealthy. I mean, I could have been caught by surprise, but now I'm very much alert that when the minute the bell rings that we're fighting.
How good does it feel to go into a fight and not have to answer questions about retirement, do or die? Coming off that win, no one's talking about that. It seems like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders.
Truly, it is. And one good thing that's always come out of my career is that I've had some such and downs, and I have a laser focus that I can focus on things and look past and look around the obstacles and try not to get distracted. I mean, I fought in UFC 100, I fought for titles, I fought in different areas where the noise around the fight's been extremely loud. So I've already dealt with those situations and been in main events. I mean, and had to focus past what people are talking about and still figure out that way. Once they close the cage door, we still have to fight, regardless of what's going on the outside. And so, that's an advantage I have that that Duffee doesn't. I think this is Duffee's maybe first main event, and so
For the UFC.
right, for the UFC. And so, a lot of pressure.
How many fights you got left in you?
Oh, I feel actually really good right now. And so, I always make that statement that it all depends on pretty much on when I keep missing too many events with my kids, then that's when I'm going to retire.
How do you beat him?
Duffee? Oh, just be calculated. I mean, he drives in a lot of shots. So anything down the middle is going to hurt him because he leads with his head when he throws a lot of his punches, especially his right hand, which is his best punch. Anything coming off the right side, and he flings his body behind it. He doesn't throw from the hips. He throws with his body and springs off because he's very explosive and he needs a lot of distance to do that. And then, basically don't get tired trying to take him down. Duffee has a very good takedown defense, and I actually think his top game in grappling is a little underrated. I think he's actually pretty decent there for ground and pound. So staying out of that area and making sure to smother him and avoid him there and do the best to nullify that. But then as far as his offensive wrestling for takedowns, it's okay. I think, again, that his boxing leads him open to be counterpunched a lot.
Good luck, Frank. Thank you for the time.
Thanks.